So we're here with Phil Vansky with Peak Properties. Peak's been a longtime customer of Harding AutoPark Systems for the last about 5 years. Why did you choose mechanical parking as a solution for this project and several others?
Sure, it's a great question. I remember when we first started talking to you about this, one of the biggest challenges in urban development, as you know, is parking.
Sure.
And everybody seems to want to take, having a development next to a train site and say, well, we don't really need the parking. The reality is, everybody wants a car. So we started looking at several alternatives, starting with just building extra levels of parking on the structure. That's obviously very expensive. And then I remember when we came to a meeting with you guys, we started to learn about a solution of an automated parking system. So for us, it was very simple. This just allows us to convert individual parking spaces, which would normally be one car, into 3. And in terms of the usability of it from our tenant perspective, from our residents' perspective, we felt that this was a great solution because it was fully automated and it did not require an extra person to actually manage the system.
Sure. So behind us, we have what would have been 9 conventional parking spaces that turned into 26.
Correct.
What did it save you as far as time, duration, not necessarily cost, but excavating this site? This site probably wouldn't have happened with multiple levels of parking.
In terms of timing, it really was not that much different. I mean, frankly, you do have to build or take out excavation for the pits, but clearly we build this into our site work, and in all fairness, it really was not that much additional work.
Okay. What drives you now to continue to work with us? Because we've done 3, we're on 4, we're going to do a 5th one.
Yes.
We've got other plans.
Right.
What's the driver? What makes us a unique partner for you?
It's a great question. So we've looked at several of these automated systems, and I think there's some challenges that some of these other groups might have. Probably the most important thing to us is service. So you can imagine that if something goes wrong with one of these systems, if somebody does not come out and service this, it's a big problem. Our residents are not going to blame you, they're going to blame us. So we are hypersensitive about service. We're also hypersensitive about safety, and I think that we felt that this system, specifically with you guys, offered both. So that's probably the most important thing to us.
What sticks out to you for safety? What is it about safety? Because you and I talked about that a lot very early.
Yes, correct.
What is it about this machine that's safe for you, safe for your tenants? You're comfortable parking in it?
Yes.
What's the day-to-day like?
Yeah, so that was one of the challenges in the very beginning for us, is we're long-term owner-operators, right? So we look to build, own, and operate these buildings for the long term. So first off, what's safety like? What does that mean to our residents? Are we going to put them in danger? In the beginning, I felt a little frustrated, I think, sometimes with some of the safeties that are set up on this system, because your first reaction is, why does that have to happen that way?
Why is there a delay?
Why is there a delay? And the tenant, the resident forgets to actually, open the gate or close the gate. And so, but what we learned was that's very important. And I think it is more about educating our residents about why certain things are set up this way, and so that they understand it's really for safety. It's to protect them, it's to protect their children, it's to protect the people who are using the system. So although I think that the system works great, I think that the safeties that have been put in it, ultimately, once you learn about it, make a lot of sense to us.
You were very specific with me on the phone about educating and training your residents.
Correct.
You've taken that to another level that we can teach all of our operators across the country. Why did you take those steps, and what has it resulted in for your user experience?
Sure. So our residents are the most important thing to us, right? Without them, we don't have a business. So we are going to focus on making their lives easier. So we've actually experienced this a couple of times early on, where we did not take the opportunity to what we call onboard a tenant or a resident. And so what happens is we just assume that they should figure this out themselves, right? And if you let them do it, they will eventually figure it out, but right. I think they will get frustrated. So we now have a complete onboarding program, everything from our property management staff that looks at these cars and says, okay, let's start with what's the weight, what's the style car, is it gonna fit in this system? Then once we get that situated and we're saying, yes, that'll work in this system, when they actually come to our site, several of our maintenance staff, and usually it's the managers that do this, will do a full onboarding, right?
Okay.
Full onboarding means they will sit down with the resident, they'll explain how the system works, they're gonna show them how it works, they're gonna ask them about 10, I think, questions. They're gonna ask them, how do you wanna park? Do you wanna pull in or do you wanna back in? Because that's very important, because once you set up the little rail over there, they can't switch.
Right.
So we walk them through it, then we show them, how do you pull in, how do you pull out, what's the easiest way to do this? Ultimately, we want to make it so that this is a non-event, that this is easy for them to do. We show them how to use the app. We explain how it's supposed to work. And then we also explain the safety features so that they don't get frustrated when they're trying to figure out why the gate didn't close, but it's actually for their own benefit. So all of our staff is very well trained on this, and it's just an ongoing process. We just make sure we continue to just work with them so that they understand how the system operates, and hopefully that they don't have any bad experiences.
How do you deal with tenants when things go bad?
We've had a few of those.
I'm open and transparent. It's like
almost in every case, it's been the resident's fault. They made a mistake. They did something. They backed in the wrong way because we told them they agreed that they'll park this way, and we track all that. And let's say they parked the wrong way, or their husband or wife or somebody did the wrong thing, and they bump something or they do something. We've taken the approach that even if that happens, we take care of the problem.
Okay.
Because we're a long-term investor in this system, and if we're going to let one or two situations affect what I would call the reputation with our residents, we don't want that to happen. So it's a different approach. Yes, you can blame the resident and say it's their fault.
You can blame us too.
We can blame you, but we decided that we will just take care of it, and in the scheme of things. But it hasn't been enough that it's really made a big difference. Like for us, it's usually minor issues. It gets taken care of. They're very happy about it, and that's the most important thing.
What is the tenant feedback, and how does management feel about these systems?
The feedback is actually very positive. I think when people first see it, especially when we're doing, let's say, a walkthrough or a lease up, they always go, "Oh, this is really great." I think there's a couple things that they really enjoy. Number one is they know their car's safe. Mm-hmm. So even though you're in a protected garage, you always have potential issues. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people try and break into cars. They feel like it's safe. Number two, nobody's going to bang into their car. Nobody's going to bump their car. So they've been very happy with it. I think that in general, we don't hear a lot of really bad things. We don't get a lot of complaints once people get used to it. But again, it's going to go back to onboarding, training, making sure you follow up, and just staying on top of it so that once they're comfortable with it, they're like, this is great. And then we find that people they think it's a great system. So we haven't had any real complaints.
This is how you solve urban living. What should other developers consider when they're looking at these solutions for projects similar to yours?
I think that what we're finding, and especially for all of our new developments, it's not that we don't like the system, but we do want to offer surface parking. Sure. I mean, there are certain people who just they feel a little uncomfortable parking in this system,
or they have a truck, or they have an S-Class,
or they have an S-Class. So what we're trying to solve for is a little bit of a mix. Have some surface parking, have some of this parking. We're also looking at not the full 3. We might even do 2. Right? Where we can have the same concept, but only floor that goes up or one that goes down. And I think it's really more about the site. If the site warrants it, like we would, do what we've done here is to have the 3 levels. Or if it's more economical, we might do the 2. Okay. So we're looking at all kinds of alternatives. But in most of our projects that we have coming, because since we are urban developers, it's very challenging to get to the parking ratio. And more importantly is, even if the redevelopment plans say we could do less parking, as a property manager, marketability, we want more. And so
we're a block away from a train station, but
yes, we're a block away from a train station.
People still drive.
They all want cars. Yep. And so we're going to always make sure we have at least 1-to-1, but probably even more if we can do it.
What should developers consider when they're picking a vendor?
I think longevity. Like, sure. Are they going to be in business? That's a big challenge for us on it's not just parking systems. That could be, any of the new technology that you find in a building, right? Because there's a lot of new technology that comes up. And our first thing is, that's a great company, sounds like a great idea, a great product. They're 2 years old, and we just had this happen on one of our we had electric chargers. Okay. And the company that we had was actually a decent sized company, and they went out of business. And
really? Wow.
and so we had to now rechange all of our chargers for electric charging on these things. So, I think it's really just what's the company, what's the longevity, what's their ability to service, right? Mm-hmm. And then keeping the same system. So I see also longevity, if this is a one and done, that's probably not great. Like, we're comfortable with you guys that you will be here 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road on projects that we're going to be working on, because we don't want to have as multiple systems. Right? Quality, I would tell you that WAR is actually a great quality. That's what we have found. They've been around. They're global, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're a 120-year-old company. They've been doing parking systems for almost 70 years.
Right. So, you might pay a little bit of a premium, to be fair with you guys.
Sure,
but I think that it more than justifies it, because in the long run, if you're going to be owning and operating, you're going to want to know you have a good product.
And you get the value add of a complete bottom to top company that can do complete turnkey coordination, construction.
And I think
projects.
that's actually another thing I should point out is that when working with you guys, starting from the very beginning of our design plans, right? Being able to step in and be able to give us as part of those plans, how this is going to work, how the design's going to be, and then our architects and engineers incorporate that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the ability to get the product, right?
Yeah.
As we all know,
Yeah.
COVID created a lot of situations.
We fought like hell for that to get here.
That's correct, right? And for us, it's like if you're delayed 3 months, that delays us. That's a big problem. So the ability for you to be able to deliver, which you guys have done for us every single time, and not had a hiccup along the way is very, very, very important.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, being backed by a manufacturer who's also constantly improving their own product.
Yes.
And putting better stuff out for us to put in the market and doing innovations that help us go faster and help you go faster to market, it's invaluable.
Yes. One thing I also bring up is that your ability to work with us from our staff, right? And, and training our staff. We have taken the step of getting our staff to actually understand how this works, to even be able to step in, and we were just talking about this box right here that has a computer in it that, if something does go wrong with the system, we have the ability to step in and control it manually. Now, once it goes beyond a certain level, of course, we will call you. But even in the interim, just be able to get cars in and out. And so like Alex, who is our manager for these projects, understands how to use this. He's been trained on it. You guys worked with him. And that's really critical to making sure this is a good customer experience.
Perfect. That's what we strive for. Absolutely, 100%.
We see you as a really strong growing company. And I've seen this from the very start. When we first, as a matter of fact, I believe you had a different name when you first started.
Yeah, we were the original Harding Steel AFG company that Wayne Harding Jr. started in 1968.
Yeah.
And now we're Harding AutoPark Systems, fast forward 5 or 6 years.
Yes, and we've seen that transition, and I think it's even better for us because now we're looking at this going, again, long term, we would be able to continue using this product. And no, it's just been a really great experience. We really appreciate it.
And we've identified ourselves as a single point focus.
Yes.
This is all we care about.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
all right.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you.
it.
Yeah,
That
no
was
worries.
great.
Appreciate it.